Well, in the end, it happened very quickly, as these things always do. We'd had two big problems, really. The first, he was governed as he was elected as a Conservative, but tended to govern as a Liberal, and that didn't make him very popular amongst vast swathes of Conservative voters. And I'm talking about putting up taxes. I'm talking about the size of a state increasing. I'm talking about immigration rising to record levels. I'm talking about Brexit, whilst it's done, not being properly complete. And above all, the mad rush to net zero without any thought of the consequences or the cost of this for ordinary people. But what did for him in the end was dishonesty. An old-fashioned British sex scandal after the Partygate rows that we had. And remember, we were under a fierce lockdown in this country, and yet in number 10 Downing Street, they were partying away in the most extraordinary style. But this, a sex scandal, a cover-up, did Johnson know the truth about this individual or not? And in the end, people didn't believe him. And that led to a catastrophic failure and loss of support amongst MPs, his own ministers, nearly 60 of whom resigned, and the general public. And now well over half of those who voted Conservative wanted to see him resign. So it was inevitable, I'm afraid, in the end. He himself in his speech said he was sad about it. He felt he had some big achievements, but he accepted that he just couldn't run a government given the way that it was. The one controversy is that he says he's appointed some new ministers. He'll stay in post for approximately 10 weeks. Now, here's the problem. Many of those 59 who resigned questioned his integrity, his honesty, and his decency and his truthfulness. I'm not sure they're going to want him staying running the country for the next 10 weeks when he has a deputy called Dominic Raab who could easily become an interim prime minister. So we'll see what develops, but it could be there are more rows to come in the following days.
Right. Again, appointing a cabinet to serve. He will continue to do so until a new leader is in place. Some questions about the timeline of when we might actually see that happen. You mentioned, of course, some of the scandals surrounding the prime minister, now soon to be former prime minister. Of course, we recall Partygate, right? During COVID here in the States, we had a lot of politicians who set strict restrictions in place, and we even saw some of them break their own rules or rules that were set in their state. They got away with it, but it looked different in the UK.
Yeah, look, I think the truth of it is we're a bit more old-fashioned than America. We think that telling the truth really matters, and we can put up with anything from our politicians. We can put up with policy failures, mistakes, human errors. We can put up with all of it. What we cannot abide as a country is dishonesty. We just can't put up with it. And I suppose in that regard, the UK sets a very high standard for its politicians, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. Indeed. Let me ask you, I understand, of course, there is a separation between the two, but when you look to the Queen of England here and the royals, have they spoken out about this resignation? How might they be impacted?
Well, what we don't know is what happened on the telephone call last night between the Queen and the Prime Minister. And the truth of it is, we will probably never, ever know. Her job is to make sure, from a constitutional perspective, the country is being governed competently and being governed by those who've got the consent and the support to do so. I can't speculate, but it could be that the Queen said to the Prime Minister last night, if you lose so many ministers and holders of office state that can't be replaced, then the country can't be run. So I don't know whether she intervened or not, but it's not impossible to think that conversation did take place last night.
It would be fascinating to get the readout of that call. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Nigel Farage, thank you so much.